You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Let's fire it up.
This is the Hometown Holler. I'm Daniel Ayers.
And I'm Quinn Ray. Hey, man.
Hey, okay, so today I'm going to say something, and people are going to be like, where is he going with this?
Okay.
You know how at the animal shelter, everybody wants a puppy. You go in the animal shelter.
Where are you going
And it's
with
this is what I'm saying, right?
It's okay, just go with it. We'll see
You
what
go
happens.
to the animal shelter. Everybody wants the puppy,
Uh-huh.
right? And you see a bunch of old dogs, right?
Yep.
And they stay at the animal shelter for a long time, right? Well, I think
Sarah McLachlan music's playing right now.
in the arms of...
Yes.
This is already the best episode we've done. I think public education is the same way.
Okay.
Because when we think about public education, we think about kids. We think about K through 12, right? And here's people like, how is he going to make this leap? It turns out you can teach old dogs new tricks.
You can.
Okay, people are holding their breath. Where is he going? So today we're talking about adult education. We're talking about the importance of adult education, continuing on this conversation, this theme we have on the Holler about it's the year of public schools.
That's right.
And obviously that includes, our middle schools, our high schools, our elementary schools. But today we are here with a personal friend of mine, somebody I admire. I don't know if how Anna Kate would feel about this, but
Yeah.
I was a teacher for one of your kids, and
A 4-H'er.
a fellow 4-H'er, a clover bud back in the day. Yeah. So Jen and I go way back. Today we're here with Jen Mock. Jen is the executive director of college and career readiness at Alamance Community College, ACC. And we're going to get into a conversation, highlight ACC's unique programs and initiatives in ESL, English as a second language, career pathways, reentry classes, serving diverse populations. I mean, as Jen, she taught us a new term, the non-traditional student, right?
Non-traditional.
And just ACC is doing some, what I would say some of the programs they have going there are some of the most consequential programs happening in the county, and they're kind of the best kept secret. Like, I will bet most of our listeners have never heard of most of the things we're about to talk about, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I like it.
So without further ado, Jen,
Okay.
thank you for coming on the Hometown Holler.
Well, thank you, Quinn and Daniel. I'm excited to be here. And so, yes, I get very excited to talk about adult education, the non-traditional student. We have so many words. But what I feel like this education is just transformational. So what keeps me, I've been doing this for about 18 years, is that it's about life change. So it's about, you see one person come to you and their whole entire family changes. Generations. We talk about generational poverty, for example. What are some of the things you can do? Like, these are big questions, right? And adult education, I think, is really the answer. So I'm very passionate. I believe literacy is a human right. I think, all over the world, if you're not able to speak, you're not able to read, you can't participate in things. You're shut out. You're shut out of your healthcare, financial, the economy, your community. You can't support your kids in school, even if you want to. You can't pass down recipes from generations. There's so many personal and big things that happen. And so I'm just here to share a little bit about the programs and maybe even share just a few little anecdotes about some of the things I've seen happen over the years.
Oh, we would love that. I mean, one thing you just said, this idea that literacy is kind of the keystone right. I mean, I just thought about this, right? Without literacy, all other rights are kind of meaningless. Like there's no way to access financial opportunities, career opportunities, or even information, and just like you said, passing down recipes within a family, right? It makes family traditions impossible. But I think a lot of listeners might think, well, isn't everybody literate? Doesn't everybody? I mean, so could you talk about the state of literacy? Because I think most people, and I'm guilty of this too. I went to kind of that open house, that forum at ACC this past fall, and I was astonished by what I learned about the state of literacy. I mean, I learned a lot, and I think you could go a long way in educating some of our listeners about.
Sure. So, they used to use terms like illiterate, and in the kind of the idea of someone who is illiterate might seem more old fashioned, but really when you think of it in terms of different skills and literacy, you're talking about the average person reading on like a third grade to fifth grade level and what that means. And so, again, you're talking about, can someone, digital literacy, right? So pandemic, huge, if we didn't know it before, that really revealed, we have adult learners who can't access
a
things.
specific form of literacy.
Right. And so how are they, how are you going to access your doctor's appointments and everything? So there's all different kinds of literacy. So health, financial, and we talk
I
a
see
lot.
it every day in the insurance. So I work in insurance.
Do you?
And people come in, and I would say you would be astonished, but you wouldn't be. Just how many people I have to read their insurance mail to help them and help them understand just what's happening. And you have to have car insurance,
Right.
And so not having the literacy to be able to understand, man.
It is. I had one of my best volunteers that worked in one of my classrooms when I was teaching, and he worked in the insurance business, and he said people just hand over their checkbook, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know, I can't read this policy. I don't understand the policy. And think about like on a prescription bottle what that would be like. So, there's all kinds of ramifications, but then there's also, other reasons like, you've got trauma, right? Mental health impacts. You can have a brain injury. You can have a developmental disability. You might have some kind of learning disability that went undiagnosed. That's probably what we see a lot, where people don't even know why they weren't successful in school, and then they kind of like, oh yeah, I think this is probably part of the reason, right? So it's a mixture of things, and so when we see adult students, we're only sort of quote addressing or trying to fix one piece of the puzzle. So I feel like adult literacy is very much, and this is what excites me, is part of the community. So my particular apartment within Alamance Community College works a lot with like community agencies because it impacts every area. So for example, like the Women's Resource Center, we work with United Way. We work with reentry students, just a whole variety of Special Olympics. So it just impacts so many populations.
Adult learning, just from my understanding, is that 18 or older, or is it 19?
Good question.
Right.
Yeah.
So the official answer is we serve students usually 18 and up. We have a provision to serve minors that are 16 and 17 that are separated from the school system. And so they have to have like a minor release, but predominantly, and this is one of those little factoids I looked up, the average age of our students are anywhere between 30 and 44. Wow. So, and that's probably about like 40% of our students.
Okay, so. And you have it. Just looking at the ACC website right now, there looks like there's 7,700 students registered. So about 40% of them are adult learners.
Right. So the statistic you have is across the college. Right now, and I just happen to know this data fact because we had a little celebration. So far in my department, with this population, we just have served 1,000 students. So last year, the whole program year, we served 800, and we're just a tiny bit over the half of the year, and we've already served more. And, we'll talk about why I think that is. A big part of it, like spoiler alert, is our English language learning population has really exploded. And so, even going back, who is the adult learner, right? So we are, and how do we pay for our classes? That's a big question. And we'll still have students today that comes, like they're just really nervous. They're like, how much is this going to cost? And I'm like, it is free. And so people get excited. And then we have the people who are like, free? What are you doing with my money, right?
Right.
So how we're funded is under the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, WIOA. It's federal and state money, and so it addresses certain populations, and I hate that they're grouped together, but they're the intellectual and developmental disability population, are incarcerated, justice involved, reentry folks, high school equivalency, those who do not have a high school diploma, and our English language learners. So we're tasked to
Wow.
Basically, take those learners,
It's a lot.
fill in cases. Yeah.
It's a broad spectrum of
Yeah, so
folks,
basically,
yeah.
give me everybody who's really hard to serve and
Right.
has
Right.
multiple barriers. And if you could just go ahead and fill in all the K through 12
Right.
gaps, and also can you prepare them for the college, transfer
Career readiness
or
and-
you
yeah.
know, to get a job.
Vouchers will help with that, right?
Okay.
Vouchers.
Right.
How did you
exactly.
know? No. So anyway, so the good news is anyone who wants to come to our programs can come for free, and because of that, of course, it makes my job really fun because there's nothing for free because of course the administration level of it. But the good news is that it really it kind of leaves no excuse, if you will. And the only cost to our program is for our high school equivalency students when they take the official test. But even that in Alamance County, I'm really proud to say we have a grant from the United Way of Alamance County, and they pay for any Alamance person residing here who wants to get their high school diploma. If they've come to us, they pay for that. And that's about $104 to take the official test.
And that's a plug to donate to United Way.
It is. They're our friends, and they have been wonderful. They really get the mission, especially when they address, poverty and increasing upward mobility. Again, this is the way to do it. It also has moved students forward. For example, we serve people in the jail. So just even the logistics of getting money and a credit card and paying, it's crazy. So United Way, there's no barrier. We have vouchers. We just get it done.
While we're on the topic of budget, just real quick. So you said you get money from the federal level and the state level, but just recently, it looked like somebody came from ACC to talk to our county commissioners about money. What money that the county gives to ACC? What is that for?
Okay, so typically, and I'm going to be a little bit out of my league, but typically county money goes toward like facilities and internal things like that.
That makes sense.
Buildings and grounds.
Yes. So
Kind of like with public schools.
exactly. So
Okay.
that's kind of how they are. But in terms of the actual funding of our particular program, there's kind of three areas in the college. There's what we call curriculum, your traditional college student, your 2-year. We've got workforce development or con ed. Those are your short-term or even personal enrichment classes. And then we're called so many different things: adult literacy, basic skills, which I always say there's nothing basic about basic skills. And then we're called college and career readiness. So there's 3 areas to the college. We're funded in different tiers, and it gets really crazy. There's performance measures and really fun stuff that I have, but that's a different
That's right.
discussion.
How do you convince people that these programs are worth funding, expanding, investing in? I mean, maybe it's an easier sell if it's like, well, I want to teach somebody English,
Right?
But what about like serving, reentry programs, right? I mean, there are a lot of people who dehumanize incarcerated individuals,
Exactly.
and I just wonder, the continued success and existence of these programs relies on being able to convince not just public officials, people holding the purse strings, but also taxpayers, right? Voters. These
Right.
programs are an asset, and I'm just wondering
Why do we want to help bad
Yeah.
people?
How you
I'm
make-
so
how do you make
glad
that
you
case?
asked
Oh,
that
good.
question.
Okay, good.
I love that question. So, a couple of things. Well, first of all, there's safety, right? So we know that, and I can never say this word, recidivism.
Right, recidivism,
Is lower, the higher your education level is.
which is the likelihood of recommitting a crime.
Exactly.
Right? Mhm.
So we know that's important. So I always say if you just like don't care about people, right, at a human level, then maybe you can care about like your safety.
There's a self-interest element.
Yeah,
to
there's
it, right?
self-interest.
Yeah.
I just break it down.
People typically love that self-interest thing.
I know.
Yeah,
And then it saves taxpayer money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because typically if you come out and you are able to go into a program, a training program, or, get a job, you're participating in the economy, you're saving taxpayer money, you're not going back. It costs a lot of money to incarcerate someone. And so it is actually less expensive to educate someone, and third of all, it's constructive, right? So I have always found anyone who's on the educational journey, it's more not just about the academics, right? It's not about the math and the reading and all that. It's about feeling like self-esteem, doing something constructive. So, it reduces issues even within the jail. So Alamance County doesn't have a prison. I always joke around. I wish we did, because it would just make sense for my program, right? To serve more, but I really don't want to. That's not what we want. But in the local jail, it's a very constructive use of your time.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I was shocked when I learned that we had this program in our jail, because, like you said, it's not a prison. It's not, at least in theory, it's not a long-term corrections facility.
Exactly.
So to know that we have this program available in a facility like a county jail was really eye-opening to me, and really surprising, because it is the kind of thing you expect at like a federal corrections institution or even a state corrections institution. A longer term, a place where people are sent for longer sentences and things like that. And I guess I'm curious, tell us about whether it's through anecdotes or statistics, the impact of that program.
Sure. So we don't have big numbers, right? And I always say, well,
but that doesn't mean you don't have big impact.
That's right.
Oh, is that what you're going to say? Did I?
Yes,
no.
No.
Oh, what's that? There we go.
It's not. So no, we truly do. In fact, tomorrow, and it's a sad situation. We were having a graduation, but we were prepared, and unfortunately, someone has chosen to serve the rest of their sentence in a prison and got moved on Friday. So we're sad, but we were holding a graduation ceremony in the local jail for one person.
Wow.
And so it truly is the power of one. Probably one of my most favorite things over the years is been the graduations in the jail. They're usually 2 or 3 people at a time, and the impact, like, I don't go out of there sobbing.
Sure.
And it is, there are people who will work really hard. One person wanted to see his child for the first time without barriers. It's a 15-minute ceremony. It worked for a year for that 15 minutes to see their family. One person wanted to have reunification with his mom. His mom's like, I'm done with you. Like, I've heard this story before. Like, don't care what you're doing. And, he was really discouraged. She ended up showing up at the last minute. So one of the pictures that I have in my office is them. They're both just crying, holding each other. And I mean, that's kind of priceless, right?
Yeah.
Because most people.
The big impact.
Yes. Yeah. So those are all the like yay moments, right? But they're profound. And so it takes a lot. Right now, I probably feel I do have to give a shout out Ricky Durham in Alamance County Detention Center, and Rahim Aleem. He's the educational coordinator. He is doing amazing things. They personally, with the sheriff's approval, have really pushed having men and women's programs. We're adding some workforce development programs. Rahim does parenting classes, and they're just really seeing lives change for the better, and things are changing inside the jail, which is a lot hard for us to all wrap our head around, because sometimes we don't feel that change, right? But it is, it's it's a roller coaster ride. Like I said, you've got like release dates, and then, someone's doing great, and then they get into an argument with someone, and they end up, whatever.
Progress is not linear.
Yeah. So the reason we're in the jail, to go back to your further point, was there was a time where it was too short term. The jail was used for like, and again, this is, DUIs and like kind of like lesser demeanor, shorter term. But then some things change where someone they can actually serve out the last 2 years of their prison sentence in a local jail.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Do you, with the program, does it involve, because I know we are in Alamance County have an ICE detainee center. Does this program gravitate towards them at all? Are they able to use this?
Right.
Can people, you're saying, can people who are incarcerated
through ICE,
right, for immigration reasons, do they have access? Are they eligible for these programs?
I think they would be eligible. So we have not, we have been talking. I have the pleasure, we have an amazing ESL coordinator who happens to be married to Rahim, who's in the jail,
Wonderful.
So they have that instant connection with that
they're
population.
In contact often,
They are, and so
they speak every day.
They'll send an email.
But that's an interesting segue, talking about ICE, because one of the things that is important to me is, in our county, to have this like spirit of welcome is what I call, and it is really difficult when we're trying to do our work and we're trying to make people feel comfortable, learning English and doing all these things that people say they want people to do, but then on the other hand, we have a detention center, so it kind of sends a little bit of a mixed message.
Culture of fear, culture of welcome.
Right.
There's the attention for sure.
So we definitely, there's been peaks and valleys with that as well. It's been worse in the past where we've had students just across the board not show up because we might be having a Burlington law enforcement training, meeting at one of the buildings and nothing's going on, but just the sense of there's law enforcement, we're not welcome, we can't come. So we're really trying to turn that tide. And
I'm sure it could be a long conversation of how to
yes.
do that.
That's a whole other podcast
I know,
episode.
I know.
Right?
That's what I said, and you're going to get a lot out of me. But it also leads to one of the partnerships. So I love partnerships. I love collaboration, and actually, this is a positive for Alamance County across the board. Alamance County is very collaborative, and there are a lot of partnerships, especially amongst nonprofit. And so one of them is the Dream Center. So I love the Dream Center.
Great place. It used to be the old Pepsi plant.
Yes,
in,
and a lot of different things. I know. I find out all the time. I'm like, wow. But when I met Lisa Edwards, we were at an Elon meeting and, just having conversation, like, what do you do? What do you do? And she was informally trying to help people, whether it was getting their citizenship or helping with English. And I'm like, well, hey, that's what we do. Can I just what you do sounds like super cool. Can I come see it? So we did. And so it's been like 6 or 7 years since we've been there. And we now have, we would take over their whole space if we could.
Wow. Yeah.
But we have 4 ESL classes going during the week. And so we could add more easily. But that partnership has been really key because we're going where the community feels comfortable. We have our very first class, we'll start classes and there might be 5 to 10 people. Well, you get the right Latino woman who is going to tell everybody. And within 1 week, we had 30 people. We had 30 women. And we thought, oh, these 30 women have little kids. Like, we're going to need to do something about that, too. So we got childcare. And so for a while, Impact Alamance helped us out. Our ACC Foundation, continues to help out, supplement what Dream Center does to provide childcare during the classes. So that was huge. So we might see someone take their first steps, come walking into class. But we have, several classes going there, and it's a great community feeling. And like with all partnerships, and I know this isn't a part of this conversation, but it was really tested during the pandemic because we couldn't meet. And so sometimes partnerships are like, transactional, right? Like I'll provide classes and you do this, you do that. But, for me, that was like my saving grace. They were giving out meals to everyone. I'm a people person. I could not be at home. I wanted to be safe, but I had to be, we gave out meals. It was with the health department, everything, all good. And it was an amazing thing. And I think what it taught me is sometimes you just show up. And, especially with, all the different populations we talked about, you have to be as real as you can. I can't turn myself into anything else but what I am, but I can show up. And I think people know, like, you're there. You're not just, I'm dropping my brochures off. Come on.
This isn't performative.
So a lot of the students I would see, week after week. And so I think, and same thing with my whole team. My whole team is like that. They're very community minded. And so it just kind of speaks to itself, and people feel like they can trust us. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that's a huge credit to you, your team, to ACC as an institution. I think it says, just first of all, to make these partnerships, to make these connections, to be looking for resources in the community that, you can make what they do better, they can make what you do better, together you're greater than the sum of your parts. But also, I just think it's so cool that you are taking these services to the community, to the places, to the people you serve, whether it's in the jail, right? Whether it's in a community that may not feel comfortable coming to campus for whatever reason. You're just saying, well, here we are, right? And I think that's wonderful. We talked about reentry programs for incarcerated individuals. We talked about ESL. Could we talk a little bit about what ACC is doing, kind of what you do for the adults with disabilities population?
Sure. So ACC, prior to me coming, had the distinction of being one of the first community colleges in the state There was a person, her name is Sue Ellen Dalton, and she is a great force in this arena. And she made sure we were, having these programs serving students. There was something called compensatory education. And if you're not familiar with that, it was basically like it sounds, it was compensating people for the education that they didn't receive in the school systems under special education, what we have now. So for a while that ran, it had its own funding. And so we were serving adults, teaching them, math, reading, social skills, those kind of things. And it sort of evolved. That funding went away, but they folded into our adult education program called Adult Basic Education. We call that program ABLE. And so just as a way to, give that a name. And they also have an ABLE coffee cart there. So they're very proud of.
I saw that. That was really, it's a great initiative.
It's
cool. Yeah.
And we also developed a program called Career College, which actually helped with job training. And what's exciting now is we're one of 15 community colleges out of the 58 who are a pilot for a new IDD project. So it's like our next evolution of really having integrated education throughout our campus and wraparound services. So it's called Access to Achievement. So, so we're really excited about that. That's going to bring new resources and just new options to this population. Since I've been doing this job, I've seen not only at ACC, but in the community, there are so many, through Special Olympics, there's horseback riding, there's golfing, there's swimming, there's bowling.
Whoa.
There are musical groups, there are By My Side Theater, which is a big one. And there's just a lot of different opportunities. A lot of people don't realize about 50 to 75% of our students who come to us are working. So they're not working full time. They have jobs. They might have support from places like vocational rehab.
They've got commitments beyond the classroom.
So people are living, full, vibrant lives. A majority of our students do come from group homes, and that could be another podcast, which I'm not going to go into because they're not nice.
Sure, yeah.
But anyway, when our students are with us, we give them lots of opportunities, lots of hands-on, what we call contextualized learning, and just the belief that all people can learn.
Right.
It just might be at a different pace.
Right.
It just looks a little different.
And in the process of learning, we're building relationships, we're creating community, creating that culture of welcome you're talking about.
Right.
I mean, I think like one of the reasons I was really excited to have you on the podcast is, well, for one, these are services and things happening that, I mean, I consider myself as somebody that really tries to stay engaged with what's going on around me. I didn't know any of this.
When she was just telling us about how many different opportunities there are, I should have at least heard one of these.
Yeah.
And
you and I both took classes at ACC, right? Like I'm familiar with ACC.
Right.
I mean, I'm just.
Well, it goes under that title of best kept secret, right? Because, and it's just, you just don't know. And it's also kind of good, bad, because it just means our students are students like anybody else. I think there used to be a stigma, I've heard of other programs like, their programs are like tucked away somewhere, and that's not the case for us. And the good news is that this is replicated across 58 community colleges.
That was my next question.
And there's also what we call CBOs, which are community-based organizations. So anyone who receives that WIOA Title II money can serve adult students, but all across our state. North Carolina, in my opinion, is doing a great job of doing all these programs, and people just don't know about it, right?
This is why we need to fund our public schools. I mean,
this is why education is important.
This is it. It's not just for the kids. I mean, people love to do it for the kids. Do it for the adults. Do it for all of us. Do it for the community.
Do it for society.
And so I mentioned I wanted to have you on to talk about this because not many people know, but I think, and we're coming up on time here, I think this is a great. I want to end with a call to action because there are opportunities for people to get involved. You and I have talked, and at some point when my calendar, it's something that I would love to do.
Does begging come to turn?
I was going to say, I wasn't going to use that word, but you're welcome to use the word.
Okay.
There is a need right now
Sure.
for volunteers? And actually, it's a volunteers because
We have
y'all are going to
paid
pay people.
positions,
Y'all are going to pay
yes.
people.
We
So
have-
tell us what our listeners can do.
Sure. So we do have a full-time open position right now, teaching and as well as part-time, but we also have volunteers who come into our class. One of the greatest things that we can bring this population is their world is very small. You know, sometimes really some people have never left Alamance County. So having different people come in, you know, sometimes it looks like tutoring. Sometimes it looks like just doing a presentation, talking about where you traveled to, maybe a skill, you know, maybe you work at a company.
Just broadening horizons.
It's just broadening horizons. And our classes go on morning, afternoon, evening, Saturdays. We have
For anybody's schedule.
online programs. You know, of course, the hybrid, but we also have, and it's kind of old school, it's something called high school equivalency in the community, and it's a mail-in program. So people actually, it's postage paid, and they can do that. And I've always thought, well, this is just not going to have relevance anymore.
Right.
But it does, because, you know, one, during the pandemic, it was our saving grace, and students could continue to and drop off stuff. We had this little box.
So
and,
ACC mails them material, and then
they mail it
return
back.
the assignment. Man.
And then this, I just shout out to friend of the pod, Ricky Hurtado. His wife Yasmin
Yes.
has a really interesting anecdote. She taught one of the citizenship courses, right? And also, I mean, I'll let you tell the story better than
No, I
can, but,
don't.
I mean,
Yeah, she was teaching one of our classes at the public library, and she had a very small class. And this is, again, you know, power of numbers. So I believe every single person that she had, there was like a small class, like 5, including herself as a teacher, got their citizenship.
she was the teacher of her own citizenship class.
Yes,
How
and so
cool
not,
is that?
and so the excitement that day was when she did get her citizenship, she drove immediately to the polls and was
Yep.
able to vote for her
I
husband.
remember it.
So that's exciting. And she has also shared in we've done a couple. I do a lot of work with Elon University, so we've done a couple things of people telling their stories, citizenship stories, and different things like that. And she was one of our people who were showcased because we wanted to show all different types of stories, which leads me to the understanding, you know, probably one of the most like negative or just like questioning kind of things that I get is your, you know, program for English language learners is it expanding because just like everybody's just popping over the border and, you know, whatever.
right,
and
right.
it's like, no. So people don't understand different immigration statuses. They don't understand resettlement and what that means.
Right. Why would they? They haven't left Alamance County.
And so it's frustrating.
Right. Fighting that uphill battle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we serve, we don't ask people that question. Certainly we're aware. And, you know, just, and it's one of those, again, I cry a lot, moments where we had one of our teachers who was on a 10-year journey to get her citizenship, and her husband, they were from Brazil, and her son got their citizenship, and she was able to celebrate that with her you know, class at the Dream Center. It was a huge party.
Wow.
Dream Center hosts Church World Service and African Coalition resettlement. So we have resettlement there. So there's always like lots of excitement, and people just don't understand about that. But I feel like for those who are like our flag waving people out there, American, they should get behind this,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So,
this is what the country's all about.
in September's Constitution Day, but and we celebrate our Constitution, but it's actually Citizenship Day as well. So one of my like dreams, I'm just throwing this out there in the world, is I would love to see Alamance County have on that day in particular for anyone who's gotten their citizenship. Having a celebration. And even a further dream would be to have a naturalization service in our county. We would need a judge to do that.
I'm sure we could find one.
Yeah. Southport, North Carolina has one of the largest ones on July 4th. But it's really a cool experience. And I have someone who really kind of ignited this. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Idem at Elon University. We've worked together for about 6 years. So this is kind of we were so close during the pandemic, and it fell apart, and so here we are.
Well, powerful stories. No, oh my gosh, no, you're done. This is exactly.
This has been exactly what I needed today on this Sunday.
This really fills the cup, right?
Your information and wealth of knowledge is obviously there and apparent, but also through this whole episode, your passion and empathy and respect and love for the community just shines through you, and I appreciate that. One of the things I wrote down was just show up. So often I'm in the community. I try to stay involved, and people come to me and ask me, like, how can I help? What can I do? And I'm just going to be like, Jen Mock said, just show up.
Yeah,
right. But really, like,
really,
if you just show up, you're going to help. And that's what people need, is more people to just show up. So this is definitely a cup overrunneth.
For sure. Yeah, exactly right. Powerful stories, powerful programs, and a powerful leader. Jen, thank you so much for coming on the Hometown Holler.
No, thank you guys so much. It was fun.
We'll have to have you back sometime.
No doubt.
Maybe Constitution Day.
That was leading me to the other day we got an email. We asked some questions from people, and somebody asked if you could create a holiday that was about democracy, and we just shouldered off. Election day, like
we couldn't think. We were like, don't we already have? Yeah, but no, this is it. This is it. Natural is it. I think this is.
I think it's always September 19th, but don't quote me on that. But
definitely not.
I'm pretty sure every year. So, but yeah, that's I would like to see that.
Yeah,
happen.
it's something we can all get behind.
Awesome. Well, cheers, Jen. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Yeah.